happy to be a part of CloudCamp Valencia at Campus Party. I can't really tell, but I think you can hear me. If you can hear me, raise your hand. Right on. Okay, cool. I can't hear a thing, so I was not sure. But I'm just going to take a few minutes here to share with you some thoughts on where cloud computing has come from and where it's going. I think you're probably more interested in the where it's going part, so I will keep the where it's from to a reasonably short period of time. Hey, Yos, so how much time do I have? Okay, 10 minutes. All right, so it's exactly 10 o'clock a.m. my time. Now, for those of you in the audience, how many of you are developers of some type, or maybe IT administrators? Raise your hands. Okay, looks like maybe about 10 of you or so. How many of you are not technical at all? Okay, so I'm assuming most of you are technical. Oh, hi there. Okay, so we've got a panel, that's great. Well, I'll tell you what, since you're showing me around, let me show you around my backyard here. Okay, this is our little backyard here in Mountain View, California. And also I want to show you my little baby girl who's with me out here in the backyard. Her name's Tessa, and she is 3.5 months old. Okay, so we have two presenters here today, Tessa and myself. Anyway, let me get right to the point here. You know, as you know, cloud computing has been around for a long time, and depending on how you use cloud computing, it has been around for more than 10 years, because if you include software as a service, then obviously cloud computing has been around since the 90s. But that's really not the interesting story here. What's really the most interesting about cloud computing is that platform as a service and infrastructure as a service have created an opportunity for developers to get the same benefits of software as a service when they host their code, their own code. So until 2006, you didn't have the benefits of cloud computing for your own code. Instead of getting scale and low price to entry, you had to set up your own servers one by one, and it was very expensive and time consuming. But in 2006, when Amazon started off with EC2, which is part of Amazon Web Services, and Salesforce started off with Force.com, those were the first two successful cloud computing platforms. And I think that's why we're all here today, really, is to learn more about what it is that these platforms provide and enable, and how it's going to change our world. So, 2006 was a long time ago. That was 5 years ago, right, Tessa? And, a lot has happened in those 5 years. I think we now know that cloud computing platforms really break down into two major categories, and that is infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. And what's so interesting about infrastructure as a service is it's basically raw compute components. It's your compute, it's your storage, and it's networking, and you could include maybe memory, but it's just your raw computer components provided as a service. And when you think of that, lots of different companies may create their own infrastructure as a service in different ways, but at the end of the day, what we're basically looking at here is a place to put your code that scales horizontally, the ability to use virtual storage in a way that you don't run out of disk space, and the ability to scale smoothly so that your application isn't down for a few days just because you have to scale. And lots of companies are doing this. They're doing it in different ways. Not only do you have infrastructure as a service companies like Amazon and GoGrid and Rackspace, and probably dozens others at this point. But you now have software that you can use. You can actually download and install your own cloud software on your own servers and set up your own private cloud. It's still a little bit new, but it's happening more and more. And here in the U.S. government, they've spent millions of dollars on it already. So, you know, this is becoming a reality, and I think that we're going to see this as a very common model moving forward, where you build your applications to run in a scalable environment as a default. So, what else is new? Well, platform as a service is also new. And I think what we're finding in platform as a service, which is fairly new, is this concept of open platform as a service. And I think open as a service, which right now is a term really only used by VMware's Cloud Foundry, I think that would be a term that we use for all open source software or all open source platform as a service that runs on infrastructure as a service. And you know, you start to see a model developing here where just like you can take PHP and install it on any web server today, you will be able to install any open platform as a service on any infrastructure as a service provider in the future. And so, you know, there's a lot of companies out there trying to build platform as a service products, but I really don't see how any of them are going to succeed unless they're open source and free. So, you know, maybe there'll be some proprietary platform as a service software products out there in the short term, but in the long term, you know, those come free, and just like we have PHP and Python and all these other programming languages today. So, what does this mean for programming? Well, in the short term, we have a lot of code out there available today that is not available for platform as a service. And you know, whether it's PHP applications like WordPress or Joomla or Drupal, or there's now some popular you know, Ruby on Rails applications and Python applications, you know, even Perl. You know, these applications today can scale, but they're not written for platform as a service. So in the meantime, we need to figure out how to take those applications and get them to scale on infrastructure as a service. And that's where we're seeing a lot of configuration management tools come into play that are helping you take your individual software solutions, run them on individual instances in the cloud, virtual machine instances in the cloud, and then helping you scale them horizontally so they have multiple instances of the software running, but they're all connecting to the same database. And we call this, you know, configuration management, cloud application management. There's lots of different terms for it. But you will find that there's this nice movement called DevOps, D-E-V-O-P-S, where IT and system administrators are starting to provide a scalable infrastructure for developers to build upon. And you know, so we're also seeing that movement go forward, and it's very popular. And I think you should take a look at it if you haven't already. You can take a look at, you know, just do a search on the web for DevOps. And I've only got 2 minutes here, so I want to touch on a couple other areas that are interesting. You know, with CloudCamp, we've organized over 230 or 40 CloudCamps around the world in the last 3 years. And some topics have been very popular. One of those topics that's very popular, of course, is scaling out your application on infrastructure as a service. And we've seen that topic sort of move to a discussion about benefits and disadvantages of infrastructure as a service versus platform as a service. We've also seen topics around DevOps, as I just mentioned a moment ago, and scaling out your data using NoSQL databases is also a very popular area. And once you start looking into the area of data, you start noticing that we're amassing so much data now that there's another problem evolving, which is is what do you do with all of this data? You know, a lot of the data in its raw form is not very useful, but if you are able to process it and you're able to work magic on the data to get useful information, then you can become a very valuable set of data. In fact, some people call data is the new oil, because if you can data mine it, you bring it up out of the hard drive and make it useful and provide statistics, then it's very valuable. So whoever has that data sort of has the ability to create a lot of wealth. And so we also put on events around Hadoop, and we call Big Data Camp. So these are some of the areas that have been very popular at CloudCamps, and I think cloud computing is driving the path forward to using these concepts, these technologies. And I just wanted to share with you some of my thoughts here today. And in closing, what I'd like to say is, platform as a service is going to be the way in which we build our applications in the future. Hopefully it will be open platform as a service and using open source software. But in the meantime, there's lots of other things you can do, whether you want to build your own cloud or you want to manage your applications on infrastructure as a service. And then definitely keep an eye on wherever the data is. Data can be very valuable, and if your company is gathering lots of data, you can do lots of really interesting things with it. And with that, I hope you have an enjoyable CloudCamp today and a great time at Campus Party all week. And thank you for having me. And Yosu, I can't hear you, but if you have any other questions from the audience, I can take them via